Hey everybody, your friendly neighborhood Glenn is back here today from the Alice Conference. I found myself Mr. Chris Hartley. He's running the Global Hotel Alliance. So we're going to see what's going on internationally. So I got to ask you, Chris, I've been focused so much on the United States and North America in general, but what is happening internationally when it comes to the travel resurgence that we've been seeing, at least here in this part of the world?
Well, 22 ended really well. The last quarter was as good as anything we've seen since 2019. So the outlook for this year is very positive, but I think you have to really divide that up internationally and seeing where
and then
really
to different markets and stuff like that. That's a hard thing in the hospitality industry. I mean, here in the United States, we just give the overall number, but it's not really an accurate gauge of what's happening in every local community. So it's the same thing country by country, city by city, I'm sure, right?
Exactly. And so we've seen domestic travel in markets where we're operating locally recover fully, and that had already happened by the middle part of last year.
Right.
Internationally, it's a very different picture, very strong from leisure perspective. So especially high-end leisure destinations, luxury hotels, lifestyle hotels. We've got a lot of brands in the sort of the Nikki Beaches, the Anantaras, the sort of high-end Viceroys we've got over here, for example. They've been doing fantastically well, way ahead of 2019 numbers. If you then look at international business travel, it's a different picture. So that only recovered to around 70% of 2019. And it's got a way to go. And I would predict that won't fully recover even this year internationally. But domestically, again, that's
so what is holding back that component?
I think part of the problem is the perception of travel still as complex internationally. Even now with China reopening and everyone optimistic that China is really going to have an impact on driving international travel again, governments started reintroducing restrictions because of the Chinese pandemic being so huge at the moment.
Restrictions such as you've got to get tests, et cetera, if you're coming into our country.
That's right. And so then they're trying to make it equal it all up by sort of applying it to all countries that don't upset the Chinese. And Korea and Japan have fallen foul of that already as an example. So what it does is put in people's mind that international travel is still complicated.
It is. I'd like to go to Japan. I've been trying to get to Japan for the last few years, but we're still not there because of that complicated issue.
Exactly. And I'm meant to be going in 2 weeks' time, and I just discovered today you need 3 COVID vaccines, not just 2.
Really?
So I've got to figure out then what you have to do. And I think all of those things are putting people off really re-engaging fully with travel, especially meetings. So high-end international meetings, people are going, well, we don't want to go to a market that's too complicated. They're going to change the rules at the last minute. So I think it is going to be another year or so, but we really see that confidence returning into international travel. But the positive in that is that rates are really high. I mean, you know what airfares, I mean, you try and fly London business class at the moment, if you can get a seat, it's going to cost you 10 grand. And when you get there, we've got hotels in London that are easily doing £1,000 a night. In Paris, 1,500 euros, 2,000 euros a night at the luxury end of the market. And we're achieving those rates. So is that sustainable? I think for another year, it probably is, because there's a lot of fuel in the tank for people wanting to do that international travel they haven't done. But again, that's very much at the leisure end of the market.
Right. Well, when you speak about that leisure end of the market, people get to choose where they go. Where it's business travel, they usually have a specific location. So how does the whole notion of loyalty fit into that, since, that's your universe?
Well, we've got a lot of, and it's kind of interesting at the moment, if you look at the rush of the big brands to buy into the more leisure, resort-focused brands. So that's because the whole focus of loyalty programs now is on leisure travelers. And that's really because the history of loyalty programs is the business traveler, but the business traveler has become commoditized, as you say. You don't get to choose where you stay. You get put in a hotel, it's maybe $200 a night. That's it. Doesn't matter how senior you are in the organization. But leisure traveler, people got the money, they want to spend the money.
That's right.
And so we need to focus our attention on those travels. What really drives their choice? And I think, for example, in the independent sector with these great brands we've got in the Alliance, people are interested in trying different things when they travel on leisure. And so that's very much our focus now, is how do you get into the mindset of a leisure consumer, as that is really driving premium business into our hotels at the moment.
Are you worried that everybody spent all of that money this past year from pent-up demand, and now they're going to be like, maybe we'll take a break?
I think there's an aspect of that. We haven't seen it interestingly, January numbers are looking very strong. Again, still in leisure. We're seeing it tail off now as the end of the holiday season. We'll see what happens as we get into spring break and Easter. If we start to see those numbers being sustained from a rate point of view, it looks good. I mean, I read an article today, the Chinese are sitting on $1 trillion of travel spend that is going to come into the economy. But again, the question is, they're not, airlift, for example, out of China, internationally is down 95%.
My goodness.
Available seats.
Right. Well, I mean, why would you as an airline fly there if people aren't allowed to come and go?
And it's complicated. And airlines don't just switch on overnight and suddenly have 100% of previous capacity. So all of that $1 trillion, whatever it is they're ready to spend on international travel, it's going to come into the economy, but it's going to take a while, I think. So I think we are sort of, we got another year where I think our industry will sort of be counter-cyclical a little bit because of all this pent-up demand still there. I think you have to look into 24 to see what will the normalization look like, both in terms of rate from a leisure point of view and in terms of whether business travel ever actually recovers internationally to where it was 4 years ago.
Yeah. Well, that'll be interesting. Great perspective. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it, Chris.
Thanks, Glenn.
And thanks for watching another report here live from Alice. I'm a shadowy figure right now. But that's all right. I always have been. See you guys later.